Hi there, I'm Dr. Funke Afolabi Brown. I'm the founder of Restful Sleep MD. Today we're going to be talking about stress. Yes, does that word sound familiar? I know a few of you may have, experienced that once or twice in your life. Definitely as a high achieving woman, you may experience this on a daily basis, right? With the work obligations, with the demands with the family, with, all the other things that you're seeking to create and improve on. And stress has a huge impact on our sleep. So that's what we're going to be delving into today. Okay. Now, when we talk about stress in and of itself, it's a response, right? It's a response to adverse situations around us, regardless of what those situations are. It may be daily stress, right? Based on you meeting deadlines, based on you running to catch the train, based on you getting your kids out in time for school. Or it may be big life stressors, right? You had a sudden move, loss of a loved one, a recent diagnosis. Regardless of that, your body has what we call a physiologic response to that, which eventually affects our sleep. Now, you may have heard of the term cortisol. Cortisol is a hormone that's produced by our body. It's a good hormone. We all need cortisol. It's also the fight or flight response hormone in that sense. And there are two systems in our body that really regulate our nervous systems, right? We talk about the sympathetic nervous system and the parasympathetic nervous system. And the sympathetic nervous system is sort of that fight flight response that's regulated by that cortisol. And then the parasympathetic is sort of that rest and digest, right? So you know where I'm going. When we want to sleep, where do we want? Do we want the fight flight or do we want the rest and digest? Yes, we want the parasympathetic system to kick in, right? When we're relaxed, when we're able to sleep. But then the way cortisol works is that it is lower at night, right? So that makes sense because you're not fighting a stressor. You're not scared that there's some animal that's coming to get you. You're supposed to have that sort of lower cortisol level. And then somewhere around 9 a.m. or so, your cortisol actually peaks. It starts to peak over the course of your sleep, but it starts to increase over the course of your sleep, but it really starts to peak like really early hours on the morning. And that's when you get up, you're fired up, you're ready to go. Right? And that is normal. That's our normal physiologic response. And then by evening, you get a drop again. And that's really part of that circadian rhythm. Now, when we are stressed, what happens is that cortisol, which is present to help you to function, which is present to help you, to promote alertness, to get things done and things like that, is sort of out of whack, right? It is high, high, high. And the problem is that while your body may need that for preserving certain functions, it doesn't go well with your sleep. Right? So high cortisol level or high stress, right, does not help you sleep well at all. And how does this happen? How does increased stress affect our sleep? I would say in different ways. One is that it causes increased sleep fragmentation. Again, think of that stress response. And if you go back, to the prehistoric days where, there was some saber-toothed tiger, I think that seemed like there was a lot of them back then. And so you are constantly on guard, right? So now if you have that constant, my guard is up when you're supposed to sleep, you're not going to be able to get refreshing sleep because your brain is waking up constantly, like surveying the environment to make sure you're safe. And so you're not able to sleep restoratively. So you're getting a lot of wake-ups in the middle of the night. That's one way. The other way is that stress increases the time it takes to fall asleep. So this may manifest as your mind is racing, you're tossing, turning, you're feeling very overwhelmed, everything, all the thoughts come flooding in, you start to get more frustrated, you start to catastrophize about your next day. And so this is what stress can do in terms of your sleep. And then that now triggers even more stress, that increases your cortisol. And then in the morning, you're exhausted because you've been sort of in your mind, you've been in this stress mode. And so increased cortisol, further increased cortisol, and you're stuck in this loop, right? So that's the other one. And then the third way by which stress really impacts our sleep is that it does decrease our ability to get deep restorative sleep. Deep sleep is that sort of slow wave sleep that our bodies need to rest and repair, right? And so when you have a very high stress level, your body doesn't really benefit from getting into those deep levels. And some of this may just be because you're constantly, again, waking up and surveying your environment, or you're just not able to get enough sleep, to get enough deep sleep in. Now, unfortunately, this stress and this increased cortisol level not only affects our sleep, it affects our entire health. And so there's studies that have shown that increased stress increases our blood pressure, causes a higher risk of rapid weight gain, increases what you call insulin resistance, which may make us more prone to diabetes, which cause more prone to weight gain, and of course can affect our mood. You know how you feel when you've been at such a high stress level. It's hard to function. You're moody, you may be anxious, you may be more reactive, right? So it affects just our entire state of being. So now we understand what impact stress has on our bodies, how this cortisol can create this vicious cycle, and how it impacts not just our sleep, but really leads to a lot of the consequences over time. Now, the goal is to try to decrease that. Let's drop that cortisol, or let's drop that stress level. And there are a few things I would ask you to consider in decreasing stress so you can't sleep. Number one, this is one of my favorite, is having a bedtime routine, having a wind down time or a buffer zone, whatever you want to call it, but something that really helps you start to state the fact that the day is over, it's time for me to go to bed. So you don't feel like you're running constantly and you're just getting into bed. If you do that, you've not really had a time to unwind from everything that has happened through the day. So having that wind down, no matter what that looks like, for some it may be having a bath and reading a book, or journaling, or taking a walk, or doing something that's relaxing and enjoyable, just spending time with your family. Really pick 2 or 3 calming activities heading in the direction of the bedroom. So that's the first one. The second one I would say is something you would have done even before bedtime, and that's check in with yourself. This is something we don't do a lot as women. We are just going, sometimes we try to just mask those emotions we're feeling, or just suppress the overwhelming feeling. But the thing about it is, if those emotions, if those stresses are not dealt with, they're going to show up one way or the other. They're going to show up when we're sleeping. They're going to show up in the way we interact with our loved ones. They're going to show up at work, one way or the other. So stop and have moments. It could be at lunchtime. Even if you have a super highly demanding job, even if you have all the obligations on the world, you can find a few moments in the day to check in. What is my body feeling? Really, what is going on? How am I feeling? And so that's really something that you want to make a part of your routine. And when you're doing that, I would recommend you incorporate some relaxing activities. If you find out that you're holding your breath constantly because you feel so overwhelmed, if you find out you've not taken time to be mindful, to journal, to do some breathing or relaxation exercises, this may be a time to put that in place. And what that will do is that at nighttime, when you have trouble sleeping, you can engage in those relaxing practices, and it's not foreign. Your body's like, wait, what are you trying to do? Right? You're like, oh, okay. This is what we do when we feel overwhelmed. We're going to do that right now, right? So that's the second thing. Check in with yourself. The third is exercise and eat healthy, right? So I always say restful sleep habits start during the day. So having a healthy diet, right? Having an exercise routine, actually, that's a huge way of improving your mood, of decreasing stress level. The one thing I would say is try not to exercise too close to bedtime, especially if you engage in super vigorous exercise, because what that does is it increases our blood pressure, may increase adrenaline, and so we don't want that. We want our blood pressure down, we want our core body temperature down and things like that. But if you're going to do yoga, if you're going to take a walk, if you're going to do some stretches, please definitely get that in. And if you've had a day where you've just not been able to fit in exercise, I would rather you fit it in the evening than not do it at all, because of all the benefits exercise has for our sleep. Now, the next one, and which is the fourth one, is identify the stressors and address it. Right? So I feel that this is something that we don't do such a good job as women, is sometimes we just carry the stress with us for so long. It's kind of almost become our identity, and we feel like There's no way out. But it's important that you identify what the stress of what makes me feel like this. Is it this colleague? Is it this kind of conversations? Is it this time of the day or the month? Whatever it is, trying to identify. Is it the boundaries issue, which is a big one? Am I saying too many yeses where I need to fit in no's? Find what those stressors are and deal with them. Because again, a lot of the strategies I'm teaching you will help you with sleep for sure. But really, we want to deal with the root cause, right? We want to deal with the root cause of the stress. Finally, seek social support. Okay, so that's the fifth one. That's so critical, to seek social support. Find your network, find your tribe, right? Find your community, seek professional help, seek coaching if you need to, find a therapist. You may need medications, whatever it is, there's help out there, but you will not know until you look. So I hope this has been helpful. Stress is a huge piece of when it comes to our sleep health, and I really wanted to put this out there to let you know you're not alone. This is not uncommon, but there is help and there are ways to address this. I would love it if you share this video with those in your community, if you like the video as well, and you subscribe to my channel so that when new content comes up, you'll be the first to know. Until next time, I hope you rest well.